Okay, Lumix got more camera firmware update, and this time it is for the Lumix S1R2, S1II and S1IIE. The new firmware is version 1.2 for S1R2 and version 1.1 for S1II and S1IIE. There are three main purposes for this round of firmware update. The first one is to give the Lumix S1R2 some of the new features and changes from the S1II and S1IIE. This includes adding the new urban sports autofocus detection mode, adding HDMI raw output support when used with some of the Atmos and Blackmagic recorders, adding Bluetooth timecode sync, adding ability to change the focus ring rotation direction so that you can reverse the manual focus ring rotation direction. There's also the new focus ring custom control so that the manual focus ring can be used to control some other settings, including crop zoom when you are shooting in autofocus mode. There's also direct backup of data from the SD or CF Express cards to the USB SSD drive. You can now also simultaneously record proxy video to the internal card while outputting HDMI RAW. Wireless control with the DJI RS4 mini gimbal is also added. When the camera is connected to Lumix Flow, the camera will also now temporarily changes to the monitor display. And there's also some HLG view assist parameter change, so the correct color tuning will be performed on the S1R2. The S1R2 will now also fully support Lumix Flow app version 1.1, so the new features introduced like wireless monitor will now also work with the S1R2. The camera will now also have UVC webcam support, so that means you can just connect the S1R2 to your computer using a USB cable, and you can use the camera as a webcam without having to install any extra software or accessories. And then we also have HEIF support, so you can save the photo as 10-bit HDR or SDR HEIF from the camera. So with these changes, the Lumix S1R2 should be equivalent to the S1II and S1IIE in terms of features. And this should make the S1R2 owners happy. But there are more. So the second purpose of this new firmware is to add some of the features that were previously announced but wasn't available with the initial firmware. For the S1R2, we will now have 8.1K and 7.2K open gate video output. This is in additional to the 6.4K open gate that was available with the initial firmware. Both the 8.1K and 7.2K open gate are 10-bit 420, but interestingly, the 7.2K open gate can only be shot in 25 and 30 frames per second, not 24 frames per second. The 8.1K open gate, on the other hand, is only available in 24 frames per second and not 25 or 30 frames per second. I believe that is probably because of some hardware limitations, and what that means is, depending on the frame rate that you normally shoot at, you can only choose one of these two new open gate resolution. Of course, you can still choose the 6.4K open gate, which is still available in 24, 25 or 30 frames per second. And for all the three cameras, the Arilog C3 output is now also available. But keep in mind that this would require the separate purchase of the DMW SFU3A key to unlock this feature. And the third reason is probably the most exciting one, because there are some new features and changes that were never announced before. So the first new feature isn't completely new. If you have watched my S1R2 review, you may remember I complained a little bit about the S1R2 only support a single frame marker. And now with this new firmware, this is changed. The S1R2, the S1II and the S1IIE will now be able to display up to 3 frame markers at the same time, just like the S9 and the S5 II. It's a small but really useful update, especially for people who usually shoot video in open gate format. And next, we have a couple of features that are actually brand new. The first one is the custom AF box color. This is something I have heard a lot of people ask for. You can now change the color of the AF box from the camera menu. which can be really useful in certain environments or lighting conditions where the default color would blend into the background. That said, it seems the custom color only applies to the standard AF box, like when you are shooting in one area AF mode. It doesn't apply to the human detection box, which I think is a bit strange. Hopefully that's something Lumix can expand on in the future update. Next up is wireless tethering support with Capture One. The S1R2 was actually the first Lumix camera to support tethering with Capture One. And now, with this latest firmware update, you can do it wirelessly or via wired LAN using a USB to LAN adapter. The wireless setup is especially great for situations where running cables is impractical, like on location shoots. Personally, even when I'm doing product photography in this studio, it can still be a hassle to connect a cable, especially when the camera is set up on the opposite side of this room. Being able to shoot tethered wirelessly gives me a lot more flexibility and makes the setup quicker and cleaner. There's a quick initial setup process, but it's pretty straightforward. On your camera, go to the LAN Wi-Fi settings screen and create a new wireless connection. Then on your computer, connect to your camera's Wi-Fi network. Once connected, Capture One will automatically detect your camera, and from there, you can start tether shooting. And you will also have remote control of your camera, just like when you connect your camera using a USB cable. Even using beta firmware and beta software, I found the wireless tethering works really well. Now, the one drawback is transfer speed. Wireless is naturally slower than wired. For example, when I connected the S1R2 wirelessly to my 2021 MacBook Pro, a RAW file took around 13 seconds to transfer to the computer. A fine JPEG took about 5 seconds. That's actually not bad considering how large these files are, but for comparison, with a USB-C cable, RAW file transfer takes only 2 seconds. JPEG takes roughly 1 second. So if you need to shoot burst mode or work in fast-paced environments where speed matters, a wired connection is still the better option. But if you are doing product photography or anything where a 10-second or so delay is acceptable, wireless tethering gives you a cleaner, more flexible setup. But at least with this latest firmware update, you can choose the option that works the best for you. The next new feature is in-camera focus stacking for photos. To use it, you just go into the focus stacking menu where you will find 3 main settings. Step. This controls how much the focus shifts between each shot. A higher step value means bigger focus jumps. Image count. This is how many shots the camera will take to stack. Shutter delay to help you avoid camera shake. The best settings depends on your lens, subject distance and aperture, so it may take a bit of trial and error to get the best results. Once you dial in the settings and press the shutter, the camera will automatically take a series of photos with slightly different focus points. It will then spend up to around 30 seconds depending on how many images you took to stack them and generate a JPEG file with extended depth of field. The output is JPEG only, not RAW, which is a bit of limitation. But the good news is the JPEG is full resolution, unlike the older Lumix 4K or 6K photo mode's focus stacking feature that had lower output resolution. If you're shooting in RAW, all the individual RAW files are also saved to your card, so you can still stack them manually later on using third-party software if you want. Personally, I would like this feature to be a bit more intelligent. For example, it would be great if the camera let the user select the near and then the far focus points, and then the camera can handle the rest, so the user don't need to experiment with those steps, image count settings yourself. But it is still a very useful feature. It lets you generate focus stack result without needing to transfer and process everything manually yourself, which can take a lot of time. If you have done focus stacking manually before yourself, you will know that the final image would normally require a bit of cropping. So because of that, when you are using this new focus stacking feature, the screen would display a rectangular box near the outside edge to indicate how much of the photo will be cropped away in the final output. As for the results, honestly, I think it's not bad. I did notice some minor artifacts in some of my photos, but to be fair, even if you do manual stacking, you may still get some artifacts unless you really know what you are doing and have the time and software to clean them up. One thing I noticed, the way the camera performs the stack is interesting. It starts by capturing a shot at your current focus point, and then the second photo, it will shift the focus closer, and from there, the camera will gradually shift the focus further away with each shot. So the second photo in the sequence is much closer to your original focus point, and the last photo in the sequence is much further away than your original focus point. This means when setting your starting focus, don't choose the closest or furthest point you want in focus. Instead, aim for somewhere in the middle of your subject. That way, the camera can shift both closer and further, give you the best overall coverage. I've heard quite a lot of people say that Lumix doesn't really care about photographers and only focuses on video. But interestingly, all the major new features added in this firmware update, like the in-camera focus stacking and wireless capture one tethering, are pretty much entirely photo related. I think this highlights an interesting issue. When a company is so strong in one area, which is video for Lumix, people often overlook just how capable their cameras are for still photography too. Even if Lumix already offers a lot of photo features their competitors can't do or can't do quite as well. Anyway, if you are a Lumix S1R2, S1II or S1IIE owner, I hope you enjoy this firmware update. And while I haven't heard anything official yet, I'm pretty confident this is just the beginning. I expect we'll see more firmware updates coming for these cameras down the line. So here's my question to you. What features or improvements would you like to see Lumix bring to your camera in future updates? Drop a comment below and let me and Lumix know. I'm sure they are watching and listening.